We are genuinely at a point where members of this government not only do not answer the question, but they give contradictory answers within the same interview, which in any other situation where you're assessing credibility, such as going to court and cross-examining a witness and pulling them up on things that they've previously said that are contradictory, that would destroy their credibility and a court wouldn't accept what they say. And this is going to be one such car crash interview, in my view, with Angela Rayner, which I'll come to in a moment. Credit to Sky News and Trevor Phillips. A brilliant interview by him pressing Angela Rayner. Come back to that in a moment. First of all, I am wearing the Christmas sweater. Thank you all for the lovely comments about that. And thank you also, all of you that have left super thanks. That is the little donations to me to support me in my channel. I made a point of not asking for those because I think that would be more cheeky than asking you to subscribe to the channel, which is free, which I'm grateful to you all for doing that. We are rocketing up towards 700,000 subscribers. I'm very grateful for that. And all the lovely comments in general. And so let's get into this interview. So this is an interview with Trevor Phillips and Angela Rayner about the housing situation. Just to give you the broad stats from this so that you know what you're listening for. They say that they need homes for 3.5 million people. So they don't have enough homes. They're going to build 1.5 million homes, but there's also 2.5 million migrants coming to the country, and we don't know where they're going to live. So that's the lay of the land. Here's the question and the response. Get a load of this.
All right, let me ask you about another element of this. On the present densities, you're going to add 3.4 million, or homes for 3.4 million people with your 1.5 million houses. On your own figures, we're also going to add to our population 2.5 million people over this same period. Are you content that more than 5 out of 7 new homes will go to immigrants?
Well, that's not the truth, and that's not the
That's
case.
what will happen.
Well, that's not the reality, because we've,
Well, where
in particular, in
where the
social
2.5
housing.
million immigrants that are in Rachel Reeves' budget figures going to turn up?
So just pausing it there, brilliantly pulled up. Now I'm pausing it to comment on it because I don't think we're going to get a straight answer. Well, I know we don't because I've watched it, but the point is there is no straight answer to this. Brilliant question by Trevor Phillips. If there are 2.5 additional migrants coming to this country, now I'm not debating the ethics and everything else of that. If we could cater for them and they genuinely needed support, etc., that is a completely different ethical question. But the question is, where are they going to live? Now, a lot of people have asked me, just sticking with this aside for a moment, the most common question that I get at the moment, the most common negative question that I get at the moment is, why am I doing videos that are ostensibly attacking this government and the things that they say and so on when I didn't, in their words, for the previous government? Well, let me just answer that question so I can direct everyone else that asked that question back to this video in future. Now, when I started this channel in lockdown, the courts closed and I had lots of clients ringing me up, what do we do? And I wanted to help people understand law. And I thought a one-to-many platform like YouTube, create videos. I had time on my hands and I can't sit still and just do nothing. So I thought I'd start making these videos. And I've done that practically every day for over 4 years, coming up to 5 years, making videos on different aspects of law, everything from parking tickets, talking to the police, planning, housing, family issues, tree issues, you name it, I've done something on it. And stuff that comes up in the news about law, all of that sort of stuff. Now, coming back to the question, we had a change in government, in case you hadn't noticed. A change in government, the most drastic change in government for the first time in 14 years. Now, I don't agree with everything that the previous government did, and much like I don't agree with everything this government is doing. But what I do take issue with is when they've made statements to get into power, which in my view they've contradicted. And when we get interviews like this, they make statements which they contradict. Now, the main issue I have is blaming the previous government, because if you take the fixing the foundations aspect, and we will come back to this interview in just a second with her response. It's not an answer, it is a response. But if we take, for example, the fixing the foundations rhetoric that they keep saying, if we talk about your own house and you've had work done on your own house, and it needs repair. It's done badly. And so you get someone come in and say, yeah, we can fix that, and we can work that out. But then you take them on for the job, and then they come in and say, actually, we need to fix the foundations. We need to tear the whole thing apart. We need to take the roof off. We need to take the walls down. We need to take this out, take that out. You're going to be living in the cold. Actually, you can't live here for the next 2 or 3 years or whatever. You're going to be, destitute for the next 2 or 3 years while we fix the foundations of your house. Your response to that might be, well, that's not what I asked you to do. I asked you, can you fix the hole in the roof or whatever it was? And so that is the reason I say that is because Keir Starmer's, the sticking plaster approach that was the response from this government that they're not going to take. Well, actually, maybe that is sort of what you need to do whilst you do other work. Because if you've got a hole in the roof, and you do need to repair the rest of the house, the first thing you do is you fix the roof and you stop it from leaking. And if you've got a problem in finances, so you're spending too much money than you're making, the first thing you should do is cut off all of the expenditure that you absolutely don't need. And that's how you repair a business. If you've got a business that is absolutely struggling, you've got some income and you've got lots of outgoings, you cut those outgoings off. And so back to the house analogy, instead of just tearing it down and quote unquote fixing the foundations, you fix the things that immediately have an impact. You seal the roof, you seal the walls, and you make it safe. And so a lot of this is an analogy that affects everybody, which is why I am calling these things out where I see them, because with great respect, not everybody will see it. That's why I'm talking about it. That's why it's important, because it matters to you. Every one of you watching, whether you're in the UK or overseas, it matters to you because these things are happening worldwide and they are worldwide impacts. A long diversion, I understand, but back to the interview. That's why I'm talking about it. And so this is her response to that question.
Where they're going to live?
Well, there's plenty of housing in the UK, but the houses especially...
Whoa.
And there it is. It's not an answer. Remember the question. They need housing for 3.5 million or 3.4 million people. So therefore they need to build 1.5 million houses for those people. 2.5 million of those ostensibly are going to be migrants, new arrivals to this country. So Trevor asks, where are they going to live? And her response is, well, there's plenty of housing. That can't be true. It just can't be true. Let's listen to the whole thing again. Listen to.
All right, let me ask you about another element of this. On the present densities, you're going to add 3.4 million, or homes for 3.4 million people with your 1.5 million houses. On your own figures, we're also going to add to our population 2.5 million people over this same period. Are you content that more than 5 out of 7 new homes will go to immigrants?
Well, that's not the truth, and that's not the case.
What will happen?
Well, that's not the reality, because
where the 2.5 million immigrants that are in Rachel Reeves' budget figures going to turn up? Where are they going to live?
Well, there's plenty of housing in the UK, but the houses, especially
hang on. You can't, on the one hand, say we've got to build this 1.5 million houses, and then say there's plenty of housing already.
There is plenty of housing, Trevor, already, but there's not enough for the people that desperately need it.
And there, perhaps, is the only truth in the response. There's plenty of housing, but not enough for those that desperately need it. So that is a cryptic way of saying, yes, these new houses are going to migrants, or at least 5 of 7 or whatever are going to migrants. Because her response ultimately is there's plenty of housing, but not enough for those that desperately need it. Now, again, this is not the philosophical debate or ethical debate as to whether or not we should be doing those things. That is best probably left to people who really dive into the ethics of all of that. But really, we should be taking care of our own country first and making sure that our own situation is right first. Let's see what else she says.
The homes, especially under our affordable homes programme, which is social and affordable housing. They will be there for people who desperately need them, local people. We've already outlined how we're going to support veterans and people who are fleeing domestic violence.
Okay.
Councils need homes for people that are on the waiting.
But still hasn't answered the question directly about those migrants. Where are they going to go? 2.5 million of them.
List. I've already announced changes to the right to buy, making sure they
but this doesn't quite make sense.
so that we can deliver the houses they desperately need.
Deputy Prime Minister, it doesn't quite make sense. You start the interview by telling me that there's a housing crisis. When I remind you that you have said yourselves as a government, we're going to need 2.5 million migrants. Some of them, by the way, people are going to build the houses. Suddenly, there's a lot of housing. Where are these people going to go?
Well, Trevor, first of all, when you say about building as well, the previous government did use migrant labour.
And there we go, with more blame than previous government, not answering the question, doesn't answer the question as to where these migrants are going to go. So this is a classic example of dodge and evade and just not answer the question. In any other situation where you want to seek the truth of the matter, you want to resolve issues by seeking and eliciting evidence, asking questions, getting direct responses and information in response to those questions, is just not acceptable. This would not be acceptable in any other situation like that. And so in a roundabout way, that is why I do these videos. I call these things out. You might hear these on the news and you might think that there is some kind of an answer there. You may leave this interview reassured from what she said. That is not, how did she say it? That is not the truth. That's not the reality. Let's see.
About population.
Well, that's not the truth, and that's not the case.
What will happen.
Well, that's not the reality, because...
So she said, and you can pin this, bookmark this, come back to this. She said, that is not the reality. That is not what will happen. So you have her word now. You can come back later and, pick up what she said as a previous inconsistent statement. If this now happens, she said in this interview that these new houses will not go to migrants because she said that's not the reality. That's not what will happen. We will see. But it's not as a direct answer to the question as you might think. But perhaps they are hiding the truth in plain sight. And in my view, being much less than open and transparent about exactly this. As I say, I'm not here debating whether or not we should be housing migrants that are genuinely in need of fleeing war zones and things like that. That is not the debate here. The point here is answering the question directly. And if that is what they are doing, is that what the general British public want? Now, the reason again for this is that this is the sort of question that needs to be answered when the British public are electing a government into power. And this is why I think Labour probably have a very serious problem in retaining power in a few years' time, with the likes of Reform looking at putting British people's interests first, rather than spending money overseas, rather than this obfuscation and diversion and not quite answering the question so directly. Just a loose prediction there. But let me know what you think in the comments. Thank you for all your lovely comments to my previous video. Have a lovely Sunday, and as always, thank you for watching.